Today I'm going to be taking you on a tour of a brand new gaming convention that I just came back from. It was hosted in Norfolk, in quite literally the middle of nowhere. There was a hotel and there was a bunch of fields and Norfolk Showground, and inside Norfolk Showground was the incredible OLL 2023. So without further ado, let's check it out. So Norfolk Showground was a small venue, but it was the perfect size for a fun weekend of retro, indie and homebrew games, as well as some stage shows to keep everyone entertained and a fantastic after party on the Saturday too. The first area that you came to straight through the entrance was the YouTubers and influencers section, where retro gaming royalties such as Asobitech, Ashens, DJ Slopes, Nostalgia Nerd, John Riggs and more were all stationed. Quang from Asobitech brought an incredible range of obscure and rare consoles to show off for everyone, as well as some very specific things for me personally to be doing a video on in the future as well, such as this here, which is the Vistian Dockable Entertainment, which was a GBA and a DVD player in one. It's extremely rare and he was so generous and brave to actually lend it to me, so I will be doing a video on it very soon, so I hope you all look forward to that. And I wasn't actually expecting this, but he also gave me every single version of the WonderSwan and some really rare games to go along with them for a future video that I'd been planning too. So Quang, thank you so much, you are so amazing. And I'm just so excited to do videos on all this stuff, so I can't thank you enough, honestly. As for the consoles that he had on display, there was a PC Engine LT, which I actually found out was the exact same console that he lent to Ashens a few years back to do his video. So it seems like you all have Quang to thank for a lot of great YouTube content. There was also these Super Famicom and Famicom CRTs as well, which I always love seeing, as well as his upcoming Game Boy Color game Defused, which looks and plays better every single time I get my hands on it. I can't wait for the final release. And then moving around the table here, we had Nostalgia Nerd selling some merch and some of his retro gaming books. And then we had Ashens on the other side selling his book too. And they were all just great to talk to as well. I went back to Ashens a bit later on and got him to sign this book here called Region Locked, because the crew from Did You Know Gaming were actually at the event as well. And I didn't realise that they actually came from Norwich, so it was only just around the corner for them. Not like the 4 or 5 hour drive that it took me to get there. But they did actually sign it inside there, so I have one of the very few copies of this book with all 4 signatures on the inside, which is just fantastic, and it's a great book too. The Did You Know Gaming gang actually hosted a few panels throughout the event as well, including a really fun reveal of a brand new card quiz game that they're launching called Do You Know Gaming. It was great to be part of the audience and to answer and ask all of the questions, and I actually went to them later on in the show and asked them a question of my own. I'll ask it here and see if anyone in the comments can leave the answer. So the question was, which games take advantage of the microphone in the second controller on the original Famicom? Let me know down in the comments if you know the answer. There was actually shows going on the stage all throughout the weekend, with some of the highlights being the 2-hour quiz on Sunday, in which my team came third out of about 30 different entries, so I was really pleased with that, and we just missed out on the runner-up prize.
Joint third place is RetroBreak and Toad's Turnpike.
So back to the show, and next on my list of things to check out was some very interesting Dreamcast games that caught my eye in the middle of the hall. To my surprise, the first thing that caught my eye there was actually Cuphead running on the Dreamcast. It was a kind of strange demo, and apparently if you pressed the start button the game would just freeze, and you couldn't really do anything either. There wasn't any sort of collision detection built in. It was very much a very early proof of concept, but it did look really cool. More interestingly though, there was actually a very impressive port of Tomb Raider running with almost a locked 60 frames a second, which I was really impressed with. Of course the controls haven't held up that well and I did really struggle with it, but what I was seeing was really amazing coming out of the Dreamcast. There were some other cool Dreamcast projects at the show as well. There was a game called Harley Quest, which is an upcoming Dreamcast homebrew game that's currently on Kickstarter right now, and the developer was actually there demoing it in person. And from what I played, it seemed like an interesting Gauntlet-style top-down hack and slash. It's on Kickstarter right now if you like what you're seeing here. The developer did tell me that they're hoping to find ways to improve the frame rate, and there was a lot of other ideas that he was throwing around as well, so it does look really promising. I'm looking forward to trying out the full version. There were some more too. I really enjoyed playing Rally Rush in multiplayer. The controls on that game are just perfect. And Xenocider is still one of the most impressive games to see running on the system. And it's great that they were actually all here on sale as well. So not only could you play all of these new homebrew games, you could actually buy them at the show itself too. The Dreamcast actually got a lot of love at this show. It actually won Best Console of all time on one of the stage shows. Let me know whether you would agree with that down in the comments below.
It's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
It wasn't just Dreamcast though. As well as that, there was plenty of other homebrew games on display here too. I was very surprised to see Flying Arrows 2 for the Game Boy Color there. It's a game that I've mentioned a few times on the channel at this point, and I've had the developer on my podcast as well. So, this game, Flying Arrows 2, is actually on Kickstarter right now by Studio Loading. Let's take a look at the game. There were some other Game Boy games on show as well, but I didn't get a chance to play those, unfortunately. I did play some new Mega Drive titles though, including a game called Cursed Knight, which seems like a really promising action game with a mix of flying and on-foot sections. Another cursed game, Cursed Legacy, was perhaps actually cursed as I couldn't really get very far into this one at all, before I became completely trapped and I couldn't find any way of getting under this little gap here. Maybe it's very early in development, or maybe the controller was broken, but it really didn't leave a very good first impression. There was a better game though, which was called Life on Mars, which had really impressive graphics. More impressive than the graphics perhaps though, was the CRTs that these games were playing on. I just absolutely loved this Bang & Olufsen.
I want this TV screen. Look at it. It's so nice.
In fact, there was a load of really nice CRT screens dotted all over the event, and there was even a company showing off this new screen project which aims to mimic the old CRTs, but bringing them more in line with modern display technology, complete with all of the original ports, which was really cool to see. It's called Checkmate, so if you want to check them out, I'll put a link in the description below. There was of course a bunch of modern games on display here too, and unfortunately the LCDs didn't quite have the same draw as the CRTs did. They all seemed to be set up quite badly too. I noticed a lot of incorrect aspect ratios, and some of the TVs weren't even on game mode, which I actually ended up fixing myself. And there was also plenty of horrible third-party controllers there, with varying levels of functionality as well. It didn't stop everyone enjoying the games though, and we spent a good while playing Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. More interesting than the modern games and consoles though was the plethora of unique and interesting retro consoles and games on display here. Starting with by far the biggest surprise of the entire event, a very, very rare console with only 2 known to exist in the entire world. Just left out on the table for anyone to play on was the Sega Pluto. Brought over here by Adam Koralik, it's basically a prototype version of the Sega Saturn with a few extra networking capabilities. It was just amazing to see it in person though. So Adam, thank you so much for trusting the public with such a rare and important piece of gaming history. Other interesting consoles on display included a few Samsung Nuons, complete with the new N64 controller accessory, which I thought was really cool to see on show. The console version of the Philips CDI, playing actually one of the best games on the system, Hotel Mario.
Hotel Mario. On the CDI.
The PCFX with the same awesome game that I played back at Play Expo last year. The FM Towns Marty, the Super Graphics, playing 1941, one of only 5 games for the entire console. The Commodore CD-TV, which was actually set up with this really nice sound system, and a very interesting infrared receiver wireless controller, which worked a lot better than I expected. The Neo Geo CD, the Amstrad GX4000, the list just goes on and on. If you're interested in retro consoles, you could literally find everything you could have ever wanted at this event. There was also hundreds of retro computers on the show as well, which admittedly is a bit of a retro gaming blind spot for me. I didn't grow up with any personal computers before the Windows 95 era, so the whole British microcomputer thing, such as the Amigas and the Commodores, they're all kind of lost on me. It does seem like the Amiga in particular was extremely popular at this show and with the retro community in general. I really need to learn more about that side of retro gaming, but I think it's almost impossible to really appreciate those systems with such limited space. Maybe one day, whenever I get my garage conversion done, then I'll actually have some space to set up some of these retro computers and see what all the fuss is about. Of course, no gaming convention would be complete without some traders. And while this wasn't really the focus of the event, there was actually only a handful of stalls dotted around, they more than made up for that with the quality of the games that were on sale here. There were so many cool things on sale. Something that really caught my eye early on were these amazing custom game manuals for the Switch games. I picked up this Mario All-Stars one as I've actually been thinking about replaying those games recently. I think it'll be really fun to go through and tick off the stars as I'm playing along. Elsewhere, of course, there were the usual retro gaming tables, and of course I picked up a bunch of interesting things too. The most exciting thing that I found at the show though was this immaculate condition Famicom here. Just look at how good it is. It's got everything. It doesn't even look like it's been touched. Everything's still in its original plastic wrapping. Unfortunately, I don't have exactly the right cables to be able to hook it up to my PAL CRT back there just yet, but I do know what I need, so I'll be getting that soon. Something else I was very excited to see at the show was the great range of books and magazines on offer. I really love reading, so this was a very nice surprise. I actually picked up 4 magazines while I was there. I picked up 2 retro ones, which were an issue of Total, which was a SNES and Game Boy themed magazine, and an issue of Super Play as well, which was a very famous SNES magazine back in the day. I had a great time reading both of these back in the hotel room. And I actually picked up 2 modern ones as well. I got the latest issue of Sega Powered, which is a Sega fan magazine, and I also got the first ever issue of Debug, which actually made its debut at the show, and this one is a brand new indie focused magazine as well, so it's just great that print magazines still happen today, so I'm always happy to support them wherever I can. It was great to meet John Riggs. I actually picked up 2 of his homebrew releases here. So I got this one, which is a balloon fight ROM hack starring Iwata, which is really cool. And I also got this, which is one of his original games called Cereal Cafe, because if you know him, he is a cereal junkie. Unfortunately, I can't get this one to work on my NES just yet, but there is some instructions on the back. So fingers crossed I can get that working. I've also got the Retro Freak out to try it on there as well. And I also got some nice freebies as well from some really generous people. I got Transy Ruby here from my friend Ryan Brown, who works at Super Rare now. Here it is, and I don't know anything about this game, so let me know down in the comments below whether you've ever played or heard of this one. He said it's a Metroidvania style game, which I'm a big fan of, so really excited to try that one out. And from Bitmap Bureau, they were very kind and actually gave me this copy here of Xenocrisis for the Nintendo 64. And unfortunately, I don't have a way of playing American N64 games just yet, but I do have the right attachments to transform my Japanese one into an American system. It's just a case of getting the right screwdriver, so very soon I'll be able to try this one out, and maybe I'll give it a go on stream as well, because I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. There were some other really cool things that I bought at the show as well. I was so excited to find this copy of Kirby Star Stacker on the Super Famicom. Yes, it was £90, but that's actually not a bad price for this game. It is an extremely rare game. I would love to get it complete in box one day, but for now, to complete my Kirby collection, I am so happy to actually add this to my collection. And the very sad thing is that the guy who was running the store, a guy called Pomelo Fish over on Twitter, who was actually a fan of the channel, so it was really cool to speak to him. He actually said that no one even knew about this game or even pointed it out, so I'm very glad that it's gone to a good home. And as well as that, there was something really cool, and that was the fact that on Saturday night, we actually went back to go to an after party at the show, which was just really fun, being able to just have some drinks, listen to some gaming related music, play on some consoles and stuff, and talk to friends obviously. But while we were there as well, one of the vendors actually decided to stay until about midnight when it closed, and I was maybe a little bit tipsy at the time, and I was looking around and I saw this on the side. This is no ordinary Game Boy Advance SP. Not only is it actually a 101 model with, of course, the really nice backlight, but if you take a look on the back, it is actually the Chinese IQ version, which is really cool to see, and I would love to try and track down all of the IQ consoles at some point, so I'm very, very happy to add this to my collection. And as well as that, he also threw in this for free, which is the Final Fantasy VI Sound Restoration ROM hack, which is just so cool. I'm so glad that he threw this in as a bonus, but just having an IQ version of the GBA is so exciting. I really want to try and track down the Game Boy Micro IQ as well. I just really loved the shopping experience here as well. As the show wasn't as busy as a lot of the other events I've been to, I felt like I didn't need to spend half my time just trying to fight to get a good view of the table, like I usually do at the London or Birmingham gaming markets, for example. It was a lot more relaxed. So all in all, the show was a fantastic event. It very much had a community feel to it. It was just great for me to be able to go there and meet so many people that I admire and that I look up to. It was just so much fun to meet everyone and be in the same area as all of these amazing people. The games on show were just super interesting, as well as all of the consoles and computers. I want to say a big thank you to Daniel Crocker from Wave Games for giving me the tickets to go to the event. I really do appreciate that, and I can't wait to come back next year and do it all over again. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more events comments from me, then check the playlist up here. I've actually done quite a few at this point, and I plan on doing a lot more in the future. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for the next episode. Goodbye.